You've heard the story, right? The Carolinas. They're supposed to be the last slice of the affordable American dream. But you know what? For thousands of people who've bought homes there recently, that dream is starting to look a little different. It's fracturing. What they're actually finding isn't some paradise, but a market that's flashing some pretty serious warning signs. So let's get into it. And that quote really nails it. This isn't some big dramatic crash we're talking about. For so many families, it's this slow, tightening squeeze. Paychecks just get drained by these huge monthly payments. And sellers who thought their homes would fly off the market are just watching them sit. The whole energy of the market has just completely changed. So let's really break that shift down. On one side, you've got the hype machine, right? The glossy brochure is talking about new jobs, cheap homes, charming towns, and quick sales. But the reality on the ground, well, that's a whole different story. We're seeing a massive disconnect between home prices and what local wages can actually support. Affordability is cracking, and properties are just lingering on the market way longer, all while these hidden costs like taxes and insurance are quietly creeping up. To really get what's going on, we're going to take a little road trip. We're going to make 4 stops in 4 very different types of markets all across the Carolinas. This is how we're going to see firsthand what's really happening beyond that polished sales pitch. Okay, first stop on our trip, a place like Spartanburg, South Carolina. Now on the surface, this place is booming with new construction. But if you look just a little bit closer, you find our first major warning sign, a serious oversupply of new homes, a new build glut. Now, here's what's so interesting. These symptoms of oversupply are often mistaken for a great deal for buyers. You see all these heavy incentives, right? Mortgage buydowns, help with closing costs, free appliances. But listen, those aren't signs of a strong market. They're signs of pressure. Builders just flooded the area with spec homes, and now there are simply more houses for sale than there are qualified buyers who can afford them. And that's causing everything, new and old, to sit on the market a whole lot longer. All right, next stop, we're heading to those metro-adjacent cities, places like Gastonia or Rock Hill. For years, these towns were sold as the smart, affordable alternative to a big city hub like Charlotte. And for a while, that model actually worked pretty well. But here's the fundamental problem. The home prices in these towns shot up based on one big assumption, a never-ending flow of commuters with big, Charlotte-sized paychecks. Well, as soon as interest rates went up, that huge gap between local wages and home prices became impossible to ignore. Now, you're seeing those back-on-market signs pop up everywhere, and even investors are starting to sell off their properties because the rental demand is getting soft. For our third stop, we're going to the coast, to a beautiful city like Charleston. But behind that picture-perfect exterior, there's a growing crisis that can completely derail a home sale right at the last minute. And that crisis is all about unpredictable, skyrocketing hidden costs. Just look at this number. It is staggering. In just a handful of years, the combined annual cost for home, wind, and flood insurance in some of these coastal neighborhoods has doubled, or in some cases, even tripled. And this isn't just about the money. It's the sheer unpredictability of it. A mortgage can look totally manageable right up until that final insurance quote comes in and just blows the whole budget apart. And you can really see the ripple effect this is having. Deals that look like they were a sure thing are just falling apart. And now you have this growing number of homeowners in these really vulnerable coastal areas trying to sell, trying to get out before the next hurricane season or the next big premium hike. And what does that do? It just adds even more inventory to an already cooling market. Okay, final stop on our tour. We're looking at vacation hubs, places like Columbia and Myrtle Beach. These markets were absolute magnets for investors chasing rental income. But now, they're facing a totally new problem: investor fatigue. So what in the world is investor fatigue? Well, it's pretty simple. It's the point where the math just stops working for landlords. Rents start to flatten out, but all their costs, insurance, property taxes, those HOA fees, they just keep climbing. All of a sudden, that property goes from being a cash cow to a liability, and that's when investors start running for the exits. Myrtle Beach is the perfect case study for this. I mean, just picture it. Condo buildings where there are literally dozens of identical units all for sale at the same time. What's the only way to compete? You have to cut your price. And that just starts this race to the bottom that drags the whole building's value down. Throw in falling rental income and skyrocketing HOA fees, and what you have is a recipe for a very, very fragile market. So, we've seen 4 different markets, each with its own distinct problem. Now it's time to zoom out, connect the dots, and look at the big picture. Because these aren't just isolated issues. They're all interconnected threads pulling at the very same fabric. This right here is a really crucial metric. It's called months of supply. Basically, it tells you how long it would take to sell every single home currently on the market. In a place like Greensboro, that number has roughly doubled from its peak during the boom. This is a crystal clear signal that the power has shifted from sellers back to buyers. This rising supply is the direct result of all those pressures we just saw on our trip. It means negotiation and patience are back in the game. So let's just sum up our road trip. We saw oversupply in the new build suburbs, a major wage disconnect in the commuter towns, crippling hidden costs in the coastal cities, and rental saturation in the investor hubs. But you see how they all feed each other? The investor exit in Myrtle Beach adds to the state's total housing supply. The oversupply in Spartanburg makes it that much harder for a regular seller in nearby Gastonia to compete. It's a chain reaction, and the end result is a market rebalancing that can be really painful for anyone who bought at the peak. Now, look, this isn't about telling people to avoid the Carolinas. It's about being smart. It's about moving strategically. So how do you protect yourself in this kind of shifting landscape? Okay, here are 3 absolutely critical questions you have to ask before you even think about making an offer. First, if a place looks like a bargain, you need to ask why. Is it a desperate builder, a motivated seller, or is there a hidden issue? Second, you have to calculate the full monthly cost, and I mean everything, the latest property taxes, HOA fees, and get multiple firm insurance quotes upfront. And third, check the days on market in that specific neighborhood. If homes are sitting for a while, that means you, the buyer, have the leverage. Use it. Ultimately, it really all comes down to this one question. Are you buying a dream, or are you just paying yesterday's price? In a market that's rebalancing like this one, the real danger is paying a peak 2022 price while carrying today's much higher costs. So before you go chasing that dream, just make sure the ground underneath your feet isn't already shifting.